well, possibly option 4, but in particular, here's the reason why. I know Molly said that, Councilman Costin said to keep this in the queue, but the reality is these roundabouts have only been in the queue for maybe 3 years at most. It's not like this thing's been in the queue for 5 to 10 years and we're setting ourselves back. It's only been 3 years. It's only maybe even been 2 years that we've been able to get DOT to even commit to the idea of roundabouts on Highway 14. I think, as brought up before, we do have a partner to our south with the port, and it's vitally important for us to look at how are we going to create economic development in that area. And I truly believe that the best way to do that is to ditch the roundabout ideas, move towards interchanges at 15th as well as on 27th to get to help with freight mobility, to also help with any kind of just getting quicker to point A to point B for our citizens that maybe work in the port and come into town from the west. I just think that, again, we go back to what we discussed, I think it was at the workshop, that the higher priority on this is going to be getting that bridge updated, not Washougal's needs. And so as we look at what the state is looking to do and wanting to do, they're looking to the bridge before they're ever even going to consider us. So I don't think that 2 to 3 years is really going to change where we're at in the stack, in the pile of stuff, as far as finding funding for this. And I just really encourage the council to press forward on a new era with moving forward on interchanges rather than roundabouts. Thank you.
Again, I want to make sure that council understands the staff recommendation. The staff recommendation is to add grade separated interchange improvements as the priority, but to also keep in roundabout as an interim solution until the interchange can be funded and identified. So the staff recommendation is that the priority is the full interchange improvements.
Mr. Mayor?
Rod?
Oh, sorry.
We got hung up on the word roundabout for some reason here. I'm trying to keep us on the schedule so that we don't lose out and become shuffled further and further and further back whenever it's somewhere down the road in the next 10 or 15 years. Trevor, if we take the word roundabout out, we dramatically change the plan that's in front of the state right now, and we go backwards, correct? I mean, I know where you've repeated this, but...
No, obviously it's very important. I had that conversation with Mr. Halverson when he was here on an interim basis as city administrator. We were forming the legislative action list, and we had some conversation around that in the workshop about roundabouts at that point. We made a few calls to DOT as well as Olympia, and roundabouts are attached to the project, specifically design and the safety components.
Well, this just keeps us on the radar is all I'm after, and well before there's ever any funding, this council will discuss this plan many more times for the 6-year TIP. So I just think it's foolish on our behalf to take those words out of here and go away from option 2. Nothing's going to happen, and we all know that. Simply to take the words out is just, it doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise in support of option number 3. And with regards to the funding issue, it's difficult at times to know exactly where the money is going to be coming from. That's very true, or when it's going to come. I do want to remind the council that this year for the 2010 budget, the federal budget is $3.55 trillion. And the amount that's not funded via revenues is $1.171 trillion. So almost a third of the budget is not funded at the federal level. I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to find that this project is not funded this year, or probably next or the next. And for those of us who are paying attention to the federal budget issue itself, it's very likely that the pressures that are being brought to bear on the federal budget are going to translate to a lot of our tax dollars being sucked up into other things other than local improvements. As a result, when we take a look at these different options, I want to mention that there was a comment earlier by a fellow council member about how long the roundabouts have been on the table. And there, from what I can understand, this is a highly partisan issue as far as roundabouts themselves. So I won't delve into partisan politics, but I'll just identify that that's very likely why this is happening. And that also can very easily be subject to the change of a new Congress and a new White House. If there is a different administration, there might be a different push, an administrative push at the highest levels as far as doling out these federal dollars. And if that's the case, then the favored solution today, which is roundabouts, very likely is not going to be as favored, or possibly won't be as favored. With regards to option number 3, the reason why I advocate for it is if we have strong opposition and if it's appropriate for us not to advocate strongly for putting roundabouts in, my concern is that if we put them in, it will be not the interim solution, it'll be the permanent solution, and one that won't be appreciated by many. Rather than pushing for exactly what we do wish. We wish to have the interchange. So my urge to the council tonight is to adopt option number 3. I yield the floor.
Other council members? Paul?
I'm deeply concerned that amending the Metropolitan Transportation Plan absolutely takes control of our position away from us. That at this point, we have a place on the list. If we try to amend the plan, there is every reason to believe that all of the other partners in RTC will have every reason to leave us at the bottom of the list. If funding became available, I mean, you look at the process that this Phase 1 project went through. There was a general concept of what they wanted to do. Once they had $58 million, that project was transformed. It looked nothing like what was on the plan. But that plan had percolated to the top to the point that it could get funding. Leaving roundabouts in the plan keeps our position on the list. It does not require us in any way to choose roundabouts. We can amend the plan. Once there's money, then you start a design process. Should keep option 2 just because it keeps our position in the list and doesn't let us fall.
Dave?
Trevor, if I may, a question. If we take option 3,